Hey everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Debegom Zelemo and welcome to another episode of Insightful Fridays. So today on Insightful Fridays, we are having an unscripted talk. And in this unscripted talk, I am going to be talking about failure. I feel as though there's a much more better way people can relate to failure than the feeling of inadequacy and the feeling of not achieving what we want. Sometimes failure doesn't feel like failure, it just feels as you just minding your own business and going about just any day. We have focused failure so much on what we are doing, but I'm beginning to feel as though that failure is not about what we're doing, but it's about what we're not doing. You could be sitting down minding your own business, going about your day-to-day business, and trust me, you could still be failing. You could be taking care of your children. You could be working 2 jobs at a time. But trust me, you'll still be failing. And I've just began to understand and find a deeper meaning of failure on what actually it means, and how can people go through it, and how do we go through it without feeling miserable, or how do we go through it without feeling guilty because we are not doing something. One thing I've learned since watching other parents is that their kids, they ask for things, and then when they do not get those things, they make their parents feel guilty, or like a failed parent, because your mother cannot get you this or your father cannot get you this. Now you make them feel like they have failed as parents. All right, so I want to get to my first point. All right, so my first point is how do you realize failure? And when realizing failure, how do you maneuver life through that realization? Number one, the first thing that people, I think, they fail to realize is that failure can just exist in anything that you're doing, and you could be going on to your day-to-day life and never realize that you're actually failing at something. So I feel the first step to do is realize failure. And when you realize it, I think it is when you realize the inadequacy of something that you've not been putting in, failing to take care of yourself, failing to take care of your mental health, failing to do things that are going to make you successful. I think that's the sort of failure that we may tend to overlook. And when you're neglecting your mental health, you could be very well failing yourself. I feel as though it's important to have an awareness of failure. An awareness of failure, and an awareness of failure helps because when you are aware that you are failing at something, then you're going to wake up every day and correct that. And when you correct that, it suddenly becomes success. The world has measured success to very great extents. If I have this, or I have that, or I have this, or I'm close to that, I'm close to this. Truth is, I feel as though for a person to be successful, you cannot do that on your own. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you still need customers to buy your shit. If you're going to school and studying, you still need people to teach you. So we're very much connected like that. So before I close this, there's a quote that I wrote. I said, you could be waking up every day and doing nothing and absolutely minding your own business, and you could be failing. I think the biggest advice you'll ever get to hear is the take action advice. But what kind of action? Because I could be in action and not minding about what tomorrow will be, and I'll be present and living my own life. All right. So the second thing I'm gonna talk about is taking responsibility. When you take responsibility, it means that you own up to the things that are happening in your life. It means that whatever it is that is happening, you are fully aware of the equal responsibility of how things are working out. I read a book, I don't remember the title of the book exactly, but it was talking about being responsible about every situation. The book talked about how You talk about how maybe you were growing up and how your parents may have abused you, or maybe you've ended up in toxic relationships, or maybe ended up in situations that belittled you. And it talks about how you were responsible of how you were feeling in those moments. Like, a person can insult me and I can take a decisions to not be insulted. Like, I read that in some book, that it's very important to like be mindful of what decisions are you taking. And a part of taking decisions is being responsible, because a person can like do something bad to you, and it will be like your responsibility on how like you react to that, and how you like treat that person moving forward. I've had friends that, oh my god, we just have to move on with this. I've had friends that like treated me like not in a good way, and I just decided to stay away from them. And I realized in those moments that I was responsible of how I was responding to other people towards their treatment towards me. Alright? So that's the second thing. Okay. So we're just gonna continue with the sound in the background. I'm sorry about that. So I have something else with me. So I wrote it down, I think, a while ago. It was the 20th of November last year. The title of this is "To Live is to Grow." So it says, one thing I've always held on to was how a person should always be around me for me to be fully in their lives. I thought that for me to be there for them, I had to know everything, sort of control everything. And when I failed to understand that leaving a person doesn't mean that we're hating each other, it just means we're growing up. My circle of friends will be those who I choose to nurture friendships with, because what I give is what I get. So my thought said, if you want a friend, you have to be a friend. And I think at this moment I was coming to realize that sometimes having friends means putting in effort and becoming a friend so that they can be your friend also. So like, it's very important to know that just because someone is away from you, it doesn't mean that they don't love you anymore, and it doesn't mean that they don't think about you anymore.